What if I told you that the most powerful pharmacy established before the age of technology was not created in a laboratory, was not funded by a $1 billion corporation, and was not discovered in a clinical trial last year? It was written down thousands of years ago, in gardens, in deserts, in the hands of healers who had no microscopes, chemistry degrees, or pharmaceutical supply chains, only plants, and generations of careful, arduous observation. More than 100 plants are mentioned by name in the Bible. Some are so familiar that we pass them in grocery stores without a second thought. Others have been almost entirely erased from modern memory. But here is what is remarkable. When modern researchers finally began to study the active compounds in these plants, they discovered something the ancient world already knew. Stay with us, because item number 11 on this list was used by ancient priests not just as medicine, but as a tool for spiritual purification. And the compound responsible for its effects is currently being studied in cancer research. In example number 14, there is a natural compound so structurally similar to aspirin that historians believe it may have inspired the synthesis of aspirin itself. These are part of ancient practices and have stood in plain sight for centuries, waiting to be rediscovered. Here are 15 forgotten biblical healing plants that still work today. Chapter 1. Hyssop, the purification plant. Hyssop is mentioned in the Bible more than almost any other plant. In the book of Exodus, it was used to sprinkle the blood of the Passover lamb on doorposts. It was used in purification rituals in Leviticus. In Psalm 51, David cries out, "Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean." At the crucifixion, a sponge soaked in vinegar was brought to Jesus on a branch of hyssop. For centuries, theologians interpreted these references as purely symbolic. Purification, cleansing, spiritual ritual. However, what the ancient world knew and modern science has confirmed is that hyssop is one of the most powerful documented antimicrobial plants. It contains compounds called camphor, thujone, and marubian. Together, these create a plant with potent, real antiviral, antibacterial, and antifungal activity that medieval European physicians used in hospitals to clean wounds and prevent the spread of infection. The purification process was not symbolic at all. It was a practical medical application expressed in sacred language. When the steam of the hyssop plant is inhaled, it opens the bronchi and clears respiratory infections. When consumed as a tea, it supports liver function and increases sweating during a fever. When applied topically, laboratory studies have documented its effectiveness against the herpes simplex virus. Usage. Traditionally, it can be consumed 3 times a day to support respiratory health and provide relief during fevers. For external use, it can be applied as a compress to soothe skin irritations or minor infections. Always seek professional medical support for any health issue. 2. Frankincense. The ancient anti-inflammatory frankincense was brought to the baby Jesus by the wise men. It was burned as holy incense in the temple in Jerusalem. In the ancient world, it was traded at prices rivaling gold. For most of modern history, we believed its value was entirely spiritual. But we were wrong. The resin of the frankincense tree, Boswellia sacra, contains compounds called boswellic acids. These are some of the most powerful natural anti-inflammatory substances ever studied. They work by directly inhibiting an enzyme called 5-lipoxygenase, which triggers the inflammatory chain responsible for conditions like arthritis, inflammatory bowel disease, and asthma. This is no longer just traditional medicine. The effects of Boswellia extracts on knee osteoarthritis, Crohn's disease, and ulcerative colitis have been studied in clinical trials, comparing them to some pharmaceutical anti-inflammatory drugs. The findings are promising. Reduction in joint pain, decrease in inflammatory markers, and improvement in mobility. Traditional Ayurveda never forgot this. Boswellia has been used consistently in Indian traditional practices for joint diseases and respiratory inflammation. It was used the same way in the ancient world, burned as incense for respiratory ailments, applied as resin for skin inflammation, and taken internally for joint pain. Usage. Boswellia supplements are widely available in capsule form with standardized boswellic acid content. For topical use, look for frankincense essential oil diluted in a carrier oil and massage into arthritic joints or inflamed tissue. For respiratory support, burning real frankincense resin over charcoal and inhaling the smoke follows the original practice. 3. Myrrh, the wound healer. Myrrh was brought to the baby Jesus along with frankincense. It was used in preparing Jesus' body for burial. It appears in the Song of Solomon as a symbol of beauty and love. In the book of Exodus, it was one of the core ingredients of the holy anointing oil. Myrrh is the dried resin of commiphora trees. In the ancient world, it was carried primarily for one essential reason. It heals wounds and prevents infection with a consistency that no other substance available at the time could provide. The active compounds in myrrh, particularly terpenoids and sesquiterpenes, have documented antimicrobial activity against a wide range of bacteria, including Staphylococcus, Streptococcus, and E. coli. They also possess significant anti-inflammatory and analgesic properties. When applied to a wound, myrrh resin creates a protective barrier. Its antimicrobial compounds reach the infection directly, and it promotes tissue regeneration. Ancient Egyptian physicians used myrrh extensively in wound care and embalming, not just for ritual purposes, but because it truly preserved tissue and prevented bacterial decay. The same properties that made it precious for the dead made it indispensable for the living. Usage. For mouth sores, gum disease, and throat infections, dissolve a small amount of myrrh tincture in warm water and use as a mouthwash twice daily. For minor wounds, apply diluted myrrh essential oil directly to the area. For internal inflammation, myrrh supplements are available in capsule form. 4. Cinnamon, the blood regulator. In the book of Exodus, cinnamon appears as one of the 4 essential ingredients of the holy anointing oil. It is also mentioned in Proverbs and the Song of Solomon. It was one of the most valuable spices in the ancient world, expensive enough to be offered as a gift to gods and kings. Now, we use it in oatmeal and coffee cakes. What we have forgotten is that cinnamon is one of the most pharmacologically active spices in existence. Its primary active compound, cinnamaldehyde, has documented antimicrobial activity strong enough to be studied as a food preservative against resistant bacteria. However, cinnamon's most remarkable feature is its effect on blood sugar. Research has examined the potential of cinnamon supplementation to affect fasting blood sugar levels and insulin sensitivity in individuals with type 2 diabetes. The mechanism involves compounds that mimic the effect of insulin on cell receptors and slow the digestion of carbohydrates in the gut. Usage. Half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon, not cassia, daily can be mixed into warm water or food. Ceylon cinnamon is significantly lower in coumarin, a compound that can affect the liver in high doses. For blood sugar support, the most researched dose is 1 to 6 grams per day with meals. 5. Aloe vera, the skin repairer. While the aloe plant does not appear by this name in the Bible, the plant brought by Nicodemus in the Gospel of John, mixed with myrrh for Jesus' burial, is widely identified by scholars as aloe. The amount mentioned, 100 pounds, about 45 kilo, indicates it was regarded as a serious medical substance, not just a perfume. Aloe yapraclarendan, leaves, obtained gel contains over 75 active components, including vitamins, minerals, amino acids, enzymes, and a compound called acamanin, which has documented immune-stimulating, antiviral, and wound-healing properties. In many comparative studies, it outperformed petroleum jelly in burn wound healing. Usage. For burns, cuts, and skin inflammation, slice a fresh aloe leaf and apply the gel directly. If possible, do not cover it. Repeat 3 times a day. For digestive support, consume a tablespoon of cold-pressed aloe vera juice before meals. Avoid products containing aloin, found in the outer leaf, which acts as a harsh laxative. 6. Garlic, an ancient antibiotic. In the Book of Numbers, as the Israelites longed for Egyptian food in the desert, it is notable that they included garlic among the things they missed most. Garlic was not a luxury. It was a staple of Egyptian medicine and daily life, valued as much for its healing properties as its flavor. The primary active compound in raw garlic, allicin, is one of the most studied natural antimicrobials. It has been shown to be effective against bacteria, including MRSA, viruses, including the flu, fungi, including candida, and intestinal parasites. Its cardiovascular effects are equally documented. It lowers blood pressure and LDL cholesterol through various pharmacological mechanisms. Usage: 1 or 2 cloves of raw garlic should be crushed and allowed to sit for 10 minutes to allow allicin to fully form, then consumed with food at the first sign of infection. For cardiovascular health, aged garlic extract supplements retain some active ingredients without the intensity of raw garlic. 7. Balm of Gilead, the wound miracle. Is there no balm in Gilead? Cried Jeremiah in one of the most poignant questions in Scripture. He was not speaking metaphorically. He was referring to a specific resin that was among the most valuable substances in the ancient world. The resins classified under the balm of Gilead tradition contain compounds including alpha-pinene, beta-caryophyllene, and a range of terpenoids with documented anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and wound-healing activity. Specifically, beta-caryophyllene has emerged as one of the most important natural anti-inflammatory compounds under research today, activating the same CB2 receptors targeted by anti-inflammatory cannabinoids without any psychoactive effects. Usage: poplar bud oil, also known commercially as balm of Gilead oil, is the most accessible modern preparation. Apply directly to inflamed joints, aching muscles, or slow-healing wounds. For respiratory support, the oil can be heated and inhaled as steam. 8. Peppermint, the nerve soother. Peppermint appears in the Gospels of Matthew and Luke among the herbs the Pharisees tithed. Its value was widely understood in the ancient world, used for medicinal purposes in Greece, Rome, and the entire biblical world. Peppermint contains menthol, one of the most pharmacologically versatile compounds. Underneath the cooling sensation lies a real medicinal effect. Menthol is a smooth muscle relaxant. When applied to the digestive system, it relaxes the smooth muscles of the intestinal wall, relieving cramps, bloating, and spasms. Usage: for digestive issues, drink fresh peppermint tea steeped for 10 minutes after meals. For tension headaches, dilute peppermint essential oil in a carrier oil and apply to the temples and the base of the head. 9. Fenugreek, the forgotten hormone balancer. Although fenugreek does not appear by its modern name in most English translations, it is widely identified by scholars as one of the bitter herbs of the Passover Seder. Fenugreek seeds contain a steroid saponin compound called diosgenin, which the body can use as a precursor to sex hormones. The pharmaceutical industry built the production of hormone medications upon this biblical plant. In the mid-20th century, diosgenin from fenugreek was used as a primary raw material for the industrial synthesis of progesterone and cortisone. Usage: soak a teaspoon of whole fenugreek seeds in water overnight. Drink the water and chew the seeds in the morning for blood sugar support and hormonal balance. For lactation support, 2 to 3 grams of fenugreek capsules 3 times a day is the most researched protocol. 10. Pomegranate, the protector of the heart. Pomegranate is featured throughout the Bible, carved into the pillars of Solomon's temple and adorning the hem of the high priest's robe. It contains a compound called punicalagon, one of the most powerful antioxidants ever measured. Clinical research has shown that pomegranate juice reduces systolic blood pressure, decreases the LDL oxidation process that makes cholesterol dangerous to arteries, and slows the formation of arterial plaque. In a 1-year clinical trial, pomegranate juice consumption reduced plaque thickness by 30%. Usage: the dose used in most clinical trials is 240 milliliters of pure pomegranate juice daily with no added sugar. For targeted anti-inflammatory support, pomegranate seed oil capsules concentrate the punicic acid content. 11. Cedar, the purifying medicine. Cedarwood oil contains compounds called cedrol and cedrine, sesquiterpene alcohols with real antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory properties. When ancient priests burned cedarwood in enclosed spaces, they were creating a real antimicrobial environment. Modern research findings: cedrol has documented activity against a wide range of bacteria and fungi. It has significant sedative and anxiolytic effects in both animal studies and human trials, reducing stress hormones. Current research is examining the potential cytotoxic activity of cedarwood compounds against certain cancer cell lines in laboratory settings. Usage. For sleep and anxiety, use cedarwood essential oil in a diffuser in the bedroom. For skin inflammation, dilute the oil to 2% concentration in a carrier oil and apply to the skin. 12. Wormwood, the parasite-fighting plant. Wormwood, Artemisia absinthium, contains terpenoids called absinthin and artabsin, which have a powerful antiparasitic effect against intestinal worms. Here is the connection that changed everything. The active compound artemisinin, obtained from the closely related Artemisia annua plant, is an effective agent used in the treatment of malaria. Its discovery was awarded the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2015. Thousands of years ago, the same plant genus was used for exactly these types of problems. Usage. Wormwood is potent and requires careful dosing. Steep 1 teaspoon of dried wormwood in hot water for 10 minutes as a bitter digestive tea, consumed before meals for no more than 4 weeks. Do not use during pregnancy. Do not exceed recommended doses. 13. Mandrake, the forgotten nerve medicine. Mandrake is the most striking plant in the entire Bible. In Genesis 30, Rachel trades a night with Jacob to her sister Leah in exchange for the mandrakes that Leah's son Reuben found in the field. This bargain is so significant that it forms a central moment in the story of the founding of the 12 tribes of Israel. In the Song of Solomon, mandrake appears as a symbol of love and desire. In the ancient world, mandrake was regarded with a respect bordering on fear, and there was a valid reason for this. Mandragora officinarum contains a remarkable concentration of tropane alkaloids, primarily scopolamine, hyoscyamine, and atropine. These are not gentle compounds. These are the same alkaloids used today in pharmaceutical anesthesia, motion sickness patches, the treatment of Parkinson's disease tremors, and in emergency medicine for nerve gas exposure. Ancient healers in the Mediterranean used it for various purposes, but it was a plant that required extreme caution. The Greek physician Dioscorides described giving mandrake wine before surgery or cauterization so the patient would not feel pain. This was not a superstition. It was a functional method of anesthesia based on real alkaloid pharmacology used consistently centuries before the development of ether or chloroform. Usage. Mandrake root is strictly unsuitable for self-use in its whole form. Because alkaloid content varies wildly between plants, home dosing is very dangerous and can be life-threatening. The use of this plant should only be carried out under expert supervision in controlled environments. However, individual alkaloids are available in pharmacy and over-the-counter forms. Scopolamine patches for nausea or hyoscyamine tablets for digestive spasms. For those interested in traditional applications, working with a qualified herbalist specializing in plant alkaloids is the appropriate path. 14. Willow, the inspiration for modern aspirin. The willow tree appears throughout the Bible as a symbol of both mourning and resilience. In Psalm 137, the exiled Israelites hung their harps upon the willow trees by the rivers of Babylon. Throughout the biblical text, willows grace the banks of waterways. The true medical significance of the willow is this. The bark of the white willow tree contains a compound called salicin, which the body converts into salicylic acid. Aspirin is acetyl salicylic acid, a chemically modified version of the same compound, first synthesized in 1853. Thousands of years before this synthesis, traditional healers in the ancient world chewed willow bark, soaked it in water, and applied it as a compress for fever, pain, and inflammation. Ancient Egyptians documented this in the Ebers Papyrus around 1500 BC. The Greek physician Hippocrates described willow bark for fever and pain. Clinical studies comparing willow bark extract to aspirin and ibuprofen for back pain and osteoarthritis have shown similar efficacy, but with one significant difference. Willow bark causes significantly less stomach irritation because the conversion to salicylic acid occurs more slowly in the body. Usage. White willow bark tea. Boil 2 teaspoons of dried bark in water for 20 minutes, strain, and consume up to 3 times a day for pain and fever management. Standardized willow bark extract capsules contain 120 to 240 milligrams of salicin daily. Do not use if you are allergic to aspirin. Do not give to children. 15. Rue, the circulatory regulator. In Luke 11:42, rue is mentioned when Jesus rebukes the Pharisees for meticulously tithing mint, rue, and all kinds of herbs, while neglecting justice and the love of God. Its inclusion alongside mint tells us something important. Rue was such a common medicinal herb that even the most devout weighed it by the grain. Ruta graveolens is one of the most pharmacologically complex plants in the entire biblical tradition. It contains rutin, a flavonoid glycoside with remarkable effects on the vascular system. Rutin strengthens capillary walls, reduces capillary permeability, and inhibits platelet aggregation. Clinical studies have examined rutin for chronic venous insufficiency, varicose veins, hemorrhoids, and capillary fragility, consistently yielding positive results. Rue also possesses documented antispasmodic properties. The alkaloids found in rue, particularly graveolin and arburinine, relax smooth muscles in the body. When applied to the digestive system, it relieves intestinal cramps. In the respiratory system, it reduces bronchial constriction. And in the nervous system, it reduces muscle tension associated with anxiety. Usage. Rue must be used with caution. The fresh plant causes photosensitivity and skin irritation in some individuals. For vascular support and circulatory issues, steep 1 teaspoon of dried rue in boiling water for 10 minutes once a day. The safest way to access the primary vascular component is to take standardized 500 mg rutin supplements twice daily. Do not use during pregnancy. Do not exceed recommended doses of the whole herb. We have reached the end of the video. 15 healing plants featured in the oldest texts of Western civilization. They were carried across deserts, traded for fortunes, brought into temples, and buried with kings. These plants played a vital role in human history long before the development of modern medicine. It is important to consult a health professional before using any herbal supplement or practice. These plants haven't changed. The compounds within them remain exactly as they have always been. The only thing that changed is that we stopped paying attention. Take note of one of these. The next time you have a sore throat, an upset stomach, aching joints, or a sleepless night, try one of them. You might wonder why it took you so long to remember something so ancient. If this added value to your life, please click the like button. This is the greatest thing you can do to help this information reach the people who need it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to Homegrown Life, because every week we dive deeper into the healing wisdom that stands right before our eyes, silently waiting for people ready to use it. This information has survived for thousands of years, and now you can discover these ancient truths as well. Remember, this information is for educational purposes only. Always consult a medical professional for any health concerns.